Hello and welcome back to What I Wished I'd Known About Self-Publishing Before I Got Started. I am Karlie with Dragon Key Press, and for all intents and purposes, this is going to technically be the last episode in this series, unless you guys have things you want me to cover in the future or there are changes I feel you need to know about. So, in this episode, I'm basically just kind of recapping everything that I've pretty much already talked about. In the first episode, I compared traditional publishing and self-publishing and the tiers of in-between to kind of, give you an idea of what is available out there and whether or not self-publishing is actually right for you. If you decided to continue, I had an episode called Terms and Conditions where I went over the basics of terms you'll probably come across or did come across if you've listened all the way through this series. We talked about copyright and what you need to know about that, what it means, and how to register a copyright with the Copyright Office in the United States of America. As a reminder, I am based in the United States, so all the information I have is pretty much for the United States, but I'm pretty sure there's a lot that actually applies to other countries as well. We also talked about BISAC, or BISAC, which is basically a system used for categorizing books into different categories, making it easier for you to hopefully get sales and to categorize your books for people to find, including in libraries and search engines and things like that. These include categories such as the genre, a subgenre, and any pertinent topics that your book might cover. We also talked about those Library of Congress control numbers, the publication in progress program, the pre-publication control number, which is what most self-publishers probably end up going through, and how that process works, as well as basically the cost it might have, which is pretty much the cost of printing and sending a book their direction. ISBNs are something we also covered. Those all-important international standard book numbers that pretty much every country has, and each country will have their own official website and service through which they sell those. In the United States, that would be Boker through my identifiers. I've had some viewers get a little confused with that, wondering if they had to actually get their ISBNs through Boker to sell in the United States, and the answer to that is you do not. It should be international. That's part of the name in that abbreviation. You just make sure you register it in your country of origin, and when you go to have it in any kind of distribution, just make sure you click that little bit for expanded distribution. We also kind of went over my version of the basic publishing cycle. And the first part, of course, was writing, and then we went on to editing, and I talked about the different types of editing out there, from developmental, structural, copy editing, so forth, etc., and why these are all important. I also gave you some editing tips and tricks, so feel free to go back and look at those if you need to do any of that. Interspersed in there, I had a little bit of how complicated I know this entire process actually is, but once you've done it once or twice, it actually doesn't seem as complicated. Looking in, of course, it looks very intimidating, and I do not blame you if you looked at it and thought, oh my great googly moogly, how the crap does anybody actually do this? Personally, when I started, I had no idea, and I just jumped headfirst in, and it was a sink or swim moment. Looking back, I can see that that is indeed a lot of information and a lot of things to take in, but that's only when I actually look back and see what all it is I'm doing. Once I'm actually in the groove, it doesn't seem like it's that much. And I hope that you all can get to that point as well. I talked about the next step in that basic publishing format cycle, the formatting, and how to kind of go about getting formatting done, either through hiring somebody to do it for you or doing it yourself. I Talked about the different trim and binding sizes for your book, which are important when you go into formatting, and where you can find templates to help with that kind of stuff. We also talked about deciding on imprint names and the difference between that and a trademark, which is basically a brand for you, and your imprint can become that brand name for you. So they do kind of hand in hand, synonymous, but choosing your imprint name is very important, and you really just have to make sure that it doesn't impede on anybody else's brand name in that particular category. If it kind of has a similar name to something in a different sphere, like you want to kind of imitate, but maybe not quite 100% like somebody in a totally different field, like coffee production, as a author, it is permissible, but I would still be careful about how you do that. We talked about how to set up a Booker account in the United States, how to input the information for your ISBNs to assign them to your specific books, and how to set up your Library of Congress control numbers and their program for pre-publication. And that we also had a mini guide on how to use Microsoft Styles, which is what I use for formatting most of the time. There are a bunch of different programs out there, of course, that you can use for formatting, and you really should use the ones you're most comfortable with. I helped you to get an idea of how to upload your manuscripts to Ingram Spark, as well as to KDP, the styles and all that. They're pretty similar. Smashwords is also similar. It's just a matter of the formats that they accept and putting in all of the pertinent information, making sure things are good and not formatted incorrectly or anything like that. I also kind of gave you an overview of what to do in regards to getting digital proofs, especially through KDP and Ingram. Just know that sometimes there are delays or things like that, and it does not hurt to request again. If it is an ebook proof, you do not have to pay for it, just as an emphasis. If you are looking for a physical copy of your proof, then you must pay the price of the printing of the materials and the shipping. I talked about how to register your copyright with the United States government, which is, I believe, currently $65 to do so. Talked about Smashwords and how to upload to that, and how it's kind of mixing with draft to digital, how to save in a PDF format in Microsoft Word, because not everybody knew how to do that. And then we went on to the next part of the cycle, which is the promotion and marketing. Here I probably spent more time because this is the part that actually is the make or break once you get everything else set and sorted. Talked about Amazon Author Central, which is essential if you're publishing through KDP. It allows you to claim your books so you can have them on your Amazon author page. It also helps you set up that Amazon author page and is a great promotional tool. It also coincides with Goodreads, which Amazon owns, and how to set that up, what the WorldCat is, and how it helps you with promotion, as well as kind of giving you an idea of just where in the world your books have ended up. And it's pretty cool when you look and see just how far your reach has gone. We also talked about setting up websites for your author business. Different places you can go, things you might want to include in that. I think I gave you a brief tour of mine, and it needs work, and these are not going to one and done things. You have to kind of update, tweak, change as necessary. Talked about how to use social media to help promote your books, and social media is going to constantly change, keep on top of the rules, etc., because technology's changed, the AI world is upon us, and that's going to change how things work too. I don't know how yet, so I'll try to keep an eye on that myself. Personally, I think AI should not be in the creative process, but that's just me. We also talked about the importance of budgeting. This was primarily put in regards to promotion and marketing, but it applies to pretty much every aspect of the writing publishing cycle. because you have to know what kind of time you can budget towards everything, what kind of budget you have towards any services you may need to hire out. Because let's face it, not everybody can edit, not everybody can format, not everybody can illustrate or create covers. If you can, that's awesome, but the majority of you out there probably cannot. So knowing what kind of budget you have to work with is definitely important. We also talked about how to launch your book, or different ways you can launch your book, the importance of author newsletters, and whether or not they're for you, as well as the all-intrusive imposter syndrome, which I still struggle with, and I'm pretty sure will probably do so till the day I die. Because let's face it, there's always going to be someone better, bigger, stronger, whatever. But as long as you only compare yourself to yourself, everything should be fine on that end. We also talked about in-person events and what kind of things you can expect from that, what kind of in-person events you can have. I have noticed since recording that video that the grocery store program that I was talking about has actually expanded to several different states. I don't have the website off the top of my head, but I will try to remember it to put it in the comments or in that lovely little, hey, this is what the video is about section below, and hopefully that will help somebody out there. I do know that they are in Louisiana, I think Arizona, and a couple other states. So if you're in those states, good news, you might be able to get in on that program. We talked about Kickstarters and possible crowdfunding for your books. This based off of a comment from one of our listeners and viewers, because this is actually a big thing now. There are a lot of those authors out there, including very big name authors, who have decided they're going to get away from traditional publishing and do a Kickstarter to fund the publication of their novels and projects. And these are things even beginning self-published authors can do. And then we kind of ended up with how to handle taxes and what counts and what doesn't and things like that, as well as royalties and how and when you get paid for those. Because let's face it, everybody likes to get paid. The unfortunate truth is, as starting out, you're probably not going to get a lot unless you hit that proverbial jackpot, which is more like finding that pot of gold at the end of the rainbow than most people care to admit. But as long as you put out good product and are consistent with that, chances are good things are going to turn out well for you. Never underestimate the power of word of mouth. As long as you are putting out a well thought out story that is well written, well edited, and has a great cover to the best of your ability, the word will get out. Just be persistent and keep going. Now, there is one final part of the basic publishing cycle, and I do feel it needs a brief mention. If you recall in those images that I've previously posted about that, I'm not posting any images with this one because, hey, the thunderstorm's headed our way and I am a little lazy today. But if you recall that, it is indeed a cycle, and once you hit that promotion end, it actually goes right back into writing, because this is a potentially never-ending process. You may end up with that one-hit wonder that will just set you for life, but chances are good you probably will not. And most people who have decided to come this far probably have more than one book waiting inside to come out. And it's entirely possible that while you're working on all those other aspects, that book is already trying to be written and come out on your manuscript or whatever writing tools you decide to use, Microsoft Word, WordPress, whatever it is you're using. So once you have started this journey and you know that there is more than one story that you want to tell, feel free to keep going. And it doesn't have to be strictly 100% in that order. You could be writing another book while promoting and formatting another one. It gets kind of wibbly wobbly in there at times. If you can totally handle it, go for it. But if you need to have more time in between, especially if you're just learning how this all works, take your time. There is no rush. When you are self-published, the only deadlines are the deadlines you create for yourself. And that's one of the best aspects of self-publishing. It's also one of the worst because if you're a procrastinator, then, it doesn't give you that deadline that you need unless you have somebody that's going to hold you to a deadline you set for yourself. So, I hope you have had a lot of insightful bits throughout this whole program, the whole ideas, etc. And if you have any questions about the process whatsoever, something I may have not covered enough, something I may have somehow forgotten to cover, by all means, send me a comment, an email, a smoke flare, or whatever, and I will do my best to answer. If it's just something I can answer quickly, I will probably just comment back at you, replying to whatever it is. If it's something I feel needs more of a video, I will definitely add to this series with that. And I just want to make sure you know that you are heard, you are addressed, and if you need help, the help is there. And I'm more than willing to offer any advice that you may feel you need to help you with your self-publishing journey. That being said, I wish you all good luck. Keep writing, editing, formatting, publishing, and promoting, and just do your best. Do that, and no matter what happens, you will be a success. I'm Karlie with Dragon Key Press. I do hope to see you in any future videos joining us, and I hope to be able to do more series on writing and publication in the future with you guys. Take care, and good luck with your publications.